NTV.
Indeed, it's a beautiful morning and it's very gratifying to have you this Saturday morning. The hashtag is MorningGoodNTV on Twitter and Facebook, and those on YouTube, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Now, the girl child continues to test the wrath of schools and lockdown. Months to school, but many will be mothers, while others will still be pregnant. Now, the 11th day of October is reserved to celebrate the International Girl Child Day, and today we have aligned experts on this matter, the significance, the challenges, and the way forward about the girl child. Today we are having Miss Monica Nyiranguhambwa, the Executive Director, Gallup Initiative Uganda. You tell me if I pronounced it right.
Yes.
Okay. And then we have Claire Akumu, the girl and the young women representative from She Leads. This is a consortium, and you and I can be a part of this conversation on Twitter. The hashtag is MorningGoodNTV. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
It's exciting. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Let's start with this. What does this girl child day mean today for you, Monica?
I think for me, it's a culmination. It's an appreciation that the world recognizes that girls need special recognition.
Okay.
And this day shines light that all of us should rally together, put together our advocacy efforts to create awareness that there is still need for work to be done. I know sometimes people feel that boys are left behind, but we should all agree that the issues, the challenges that girls and young women face are huge issues.
Indeed.
Looking at the situation of COVID, we all agree, and we've all seen the press looking at how many girls have gotten pregnant just in this span of 2 years. So today is special because it's an opportunity for civil society, for us in the She Leads Consortium and for Gallup Initiative Uganda to bring our voices together to the world to really recognize that these are important issues, these are development issues that need critical conversation.
For the girls.
Yes.
You're very passionate about it. You can hear Monica, the way she brings this out, it's very passionate. Claire, when I come to you, where you come from, and that is the She Leads, a representative of the young women. What does this day mean to the young woman deep in the villages or where the cameras cannot reach? What does this day kind of mean to them?
Thank you so much. This day is very important for us young girls and women because it's a day where our issues and concerns get a chance to be aired out. It's a day where policymakers get a chance for policymakers to actually listen to us and our issues. And just like Monica said, it's a day that very many stakeholders and policymakers come together to ensure that the issues of young girls and women are actually addressed.
Now, when you say that policymakers and shareholders come on board and talk about the girl child issues, are the girls meeting, talking about their own issues? Are they finding their own solutions?
Yes, we do. I would like to reference the National Girls Symposium that we had on the 8th of this month. It was an event where different girls from different regions came together to discuss the issues that they face and come up with recommendations that we think we and the government should take on to see that these issues are being addressed. So yes, the girls are also part of the solutions.
Now, that brings me back to you, Monica. The girls are talking, these conversations are going on, but what are some of the key challenges, you as someone who is on the ground and what you've seen as per the statistics? Last week we had 14,000 girls being impregnated and defiled by their parents or guardians. What are some of those key challenges that keep being resounded again and again about the girl child in the country?
I think one of the key challenges has been the issue of girls not having adequate spaces to speak out. So you find that in a home setting, you could find parents who are always busy or a father and a mother who never listen. So this girl finds solutions with other peers, and sometimes the solutions are not the correct, advice that the girl will need at that time. So you find that the challenges are there. We shall read about teenage pregnancies, but I think there is need for girls' voices to be recognized right from the household level. If a family is planning, how about if you engage your daughters, your sons, your children generally in the conversation? So you find that the challenges are coming because there's so much silence. Girls are not given space. And for the She Leads Consortium, we are actually running a campaign where girls have spaces to be able to articulate these issues. Just like Claire said that on Friday, girls in this country participated in the National Symposium. Today we are having national celebrations, and these girls are going to present a paper to the government to share their insights, their ideas, looking at the issue around digital generation and recommendations, both to the government and they themselves.
Now, you've alluded to a statement I want to pick you on there. You said girls are not speaking up, they're not having spaces where they can flourish and, you know, open up their opinions. Why are they not speaking up? Now, those are the issues I want to hear. Why are they not speaking?
Girls are not speaking because, one, the spaces we've created are so restrictive, are so patriarchal. But under the She Leads Consortium, we are creating spaces where girls speak to peers, girls speak to mentors, girls have a chance to meet policymakers for inspiration, but also for them to be able to have a face-off for policymakers to hear it from they themselves. That's why we are here today with Claire. She's a representative. We want girls to be able to speak for themselves. So as a consortium, we are making sure that we give them these platforms, these opportunities, because on their own, they may not actually tap into these platforms. So the consortium ensures that we create these spaces so that girls like Claire and others who are in the consortium are able to reach out to other girls. So it's creating a movement where girls are at the forefront of amplifying their voices and ensuring that critical issues that affect them are picked up by policymakers in this country and globally. Okay,
the conversation is still going on. We're celebrating the Girl Child Day today around the globe, and here in Uganda the celebrations are still underway. In studios with me, I've been joined by Mr. James Yesiga, the country director of TDH Netherlands. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Just a few days ago, we saw the president of this country on TV, and he said, I've heard people saying that, oh, pregnant people are getting it, the young girls are getting pregnant. He said we can deal with the effects of pregnancy later than death. As a country director who is very passionate about the girl child, how far did this statement shoot your heart?
Thank you, Andrew, and good morning, viewers. That statement, I can classify it as unfortunate, particularly coming from the head of state. Statistics, and you are in the media, you know these statistics from across the country. Very many girls have actually gotten pregnant. And to imagine that that is not a disruption to their well-being, to their careers and their lives, I think is to be disingenuous. And in my view, perhaps those who reach our head of state need to give him more statistics and more information, and what it means for a girl child to actually fall pregnant below, because we are having cases of 9-year-olds, 10 falling pregnant. Now, how can you say then that indeed is not a problem for this country? If we are having children, what future are we building for these children? First of all, if he's not yet aware, that is going to lead to a lot of maternal death for these children, and then definitely the well-being of the resultant children, the population explosion that is likely to come out of all this is definitely going to put
the fistulas and all.
Exactly. The health problems from all this is much, much bigger. And perhaps while we are still on the same subject, along with others, we don't agree that schools should remain closed. That is not to deny that we have COVID, but look at the region in the whole of East Africa. Uganda is among the least affected.
And you're still closed.
Children are at school in all other countries. What is special about Uganda? That's the question we need.
That's the question. The conversation is started. I love that question. The hashtag is morning at NTV. Yes, I like your vibe already. So let's talk about the Girl Child today. What does this mean to you as a director at that level? Your entity, the TDH. What does the Girl Child then mean to you, looking at the framework and the strategies you've laid in the last years?
Thank you. This day is very important for us. It's an opportunity for us to re-echo what we've been talking about over the years, but also to get different stakeholders to appreciate that the girl child is actually very special and needs to be enabled to claim the space that is rightfully theirs, to grow their potential in leadership, in education, but specifically for this International Day of the Girl Child, the digital space. Andrew, I want to bring this to your attention that, and the viewers, that where we are right now, we are getting more and more into digital spaces.
That's true.
How are we enabling girls and even boys to actually be able to take advantage of these digital spaces? If everything from education to business is getting digital, how is it possible that in a country where now education is online, we are seeing a 12% tax on internet? Oh, yeah. Already, girls are disadvantaged from the patriarchal setting. From
the word go.
Yes, they are disadvantaged. I was in Napak last month. District officials, when they need to actually have an online meeting, they have to drive to Moroto to get stable internet. So already, you have a disadvantaged community as far as network is concerned. How can we add an extra disadvantage of tax, which really, if government is interested in enabling young people, because they are the ones who use the internet most, young people to study, young people to do business, young people to be exposed, then we can't afford that tax.
We can't afford it. Coming to you, Claire, when you hear what he's saying, the spaces, especially the digital spaces, he feels the girl child is suffocated, is not allowed to speak. Even online, when you speak something, they will tell you things like, just, keep quiet and all. What's your opinion about that?
Well, just like Mr. James said, we as young people, especially girls, are very disadvantaged when it comes to digitalization because of the kind of society we've been brought up in. We are always told to stay in the shadows. So even when it comes to things like technology, we are not a priority. Okay. Yes, and you find that a certain kind of certain girls are even put at a more disadvantage. Okay. And I'm speaking from the point of view of a girl living with a disability. We are not really included that much. Yes, we see people speaking of inclusivity, but we as young girls and women living with disabilities, we are not included. It's just, they speak about it just on the surface.
For policy level.
Exactly. But we are not really included right from the grassroots. So you find when it comes to even issues like digitalization, very many young girls and women living with disabilities are left out. Let's take an instance of the education system is being digitalized at a very high rate, yes. But young girls and women living with disabilities are being left out. I am partially deaf, so I find hard time using the Zoom apps because they involve audio. So it gets my mind thinking, what happens to the deaf young girl who has to stay in school and she has to use the online studies? She is completely left out. Yes, so we have to look for ways to ensure that even the young girls living with disabilities are being catered for as well.
Wow, the conversation is still going on. Those on Twitter, the hashtag is Morning at NTV. Let's stay civil in all that you're doing. Thank you so much, Queen of the Flow. She goes that, thank you so much, Claire, for raising that issue. Even NTV this early morning, you have no sign language, yet you're talking about inclusivity. Hey, you're shaking a very heavy table, my friend. But well, your point is taken up. Thank you so much. The conversation is going on. Catrock Miles, thank you so much for following the conversation. He went ahead and retweeted it. Akim says that one more punch in the air. This is something we need to talk about from homes. Claire, rather Monica, I think the Queen of the Flow, gave me a very heavy punch in this early morning, but I'll take it. I'll take it on behalf of NTV. But the issue she's raising is very pertinent. Inclusivity. From the word go, when we're even designing the COVID-19 regulations, the people with disabilities and impairments were not considered. A deaf man was badly beaten and killed by an LDU because he could not hear them when they're telling him to stop. And bringing this to context, to the conversation of the girl child, how can we then solve these issues? Because they are underlying issues, and some of them, they are open secrets. We can't hide anymore about them.
I think the most important is creating platforms where persons living with disability actually speak out in terms of what are their challenges, and the solutions should come from them. So that means that we should bring them on the table. We should never look at working with persons with disability as an expensive venture. I know it includes a lot of logistics, but all of us as stakeholders need to do what we have to do.
Okay.
Because if policymakers are sitting and girls living with disability or young people are not involved in the conversation, whether it's in response to COVID, whether it's in response to teenage pregnancies, then we are losing the point. We should create these platforms where they themselves create the solutions or tell us what exactly they require. But as state actors, we should be intentional. We should stop looking at things from the surface. Let's look at things from the root, so that when we come with interventions, they are holistic interventions that don't leave anyone behind.
Right there. Ayesiga, does that mean, from what she's saying here, does it mean that the approach you're using, it's a forceful feeding of up-down approach?
Yeah.
Does it feel that way? I don't want to put this in your mouth, but does it feel that way? Because that's what I'm collecting from her.
It sure is, and oftentimes when we engage with young people, girls and boys, and get their perspectives, we actually get better at what we do, because we are addressing issues from
their perspective.
From their perspective.
Yes.
But for us to imagine that we will sit up here and plan for every single child, with all the diversity that we have among the children, is to deceive ourselves.
Monica, then it brings me back to you. So what have you done as She Leads consortium to make sure that you create these platforms for the girl child to come out and speak and, you know, be that confident and speak for their rights?
So one is we are collectively as a consortium building movements that as we engage with girls and young women, we are very intentional to make sure that we engage girls and young women living with disabilities and all the other, you know, diversities of humans. So what we are doing is that working together with them collectively and ensuring that we support them with information that they are able to have the conversations with their peers right from the grassroots. Then at national level, definitely creating platforms where they can speak out, just like here we are. But also we've been able to do trainings, because young people need training in terms of how do you manage the different digital platforms and how do you detect maybe harassment or cyberbullying when it happens, because it's one thing to access, but how do you protect yourself from violence? So as a consortium, we've been running trainings for our girls and young women in terms of understanding the different digital spaces, but again, how do they use those digital spaces to create awareness on issues that they feel should be brought out. So that's what we are doing as a consortium.
That makes a lot of sense. Claire, let's look at the theme of this year. What is the theme of this year, and what does it mean to you as a girl child?
The theme of this year is digital generation, our generation, and I think it's a perfect theme for this year, because we are living in a very highly digitalized world. Yes, so it's a perfect theme to address and bring forward the issues that young girls and women face in terms of digitalization, and how we can actually achieve digitalization for all.
From your village where you come from, Claire, I'm really thinking off the grid. You'll bear with me. I'm going in an area where there is no internet, because our country has, you know, low internet penetration. That is a fact. Have you tried to tap into some appropriate technology? Maybe that is, it may not be the usual phone, like maybe one community has one phone and other people can access it. What kind of technologies do you use on the ground that make information more viable to you?
Well, mainly, apart from the phones, we rely mostly on televisions and radios. But besides that, there is not really much that we have that you can use.
Then it comes to you, Mr. Ayesiga. When we look at this appropriate technology, That's the key issue I'm looking at here. What are you doing as TDH to see that we find the right innovations from the community level, scale them up, maybe, train them, maybe they can tap into the mainstream? Imagine a girl in a Beam district. You have to drive from one district to another district to access internet. So what becomes of these ones who have been left here and they don't have access to that technology? What do we do for them?
Thank you, Andrew, for that question. I think the starting point is to, as a consortium, but also as an organization, is to realize that we are not in this work alone. But also we can also do so much. And that's why in our work, we work with government, we work with different stakeholders. And one of the things, Andrew, that I think we need to see happening, particularly in respect to access to internet and digital spaces for girls, is to have affirmative action. If we can have, just like we had affirmative action for girl education, to increase the number of girls going to universities, which I believe really helped.
It changed
the trajectory of very many girls.
Yes, indeed.
So if we could have that, we should as well have affirmative action for increased access to digital spaces, not just for girls, but even boys.
Even boys.
Now, a conversation can start from there. How do we do it? Well, we must realize that there could be constraints. If we've failed so far to provide radios for education,
they never can.
So how then can we provide, let's say we are speaking of a parish model, can we have parishes that can have hubs, access hubs? And we are open to conversations with all stakeholders who could be able to make a contribution. And we discuss on how best this can be done. So we realize this cannot be done alone, but we want the conversation to start. And I believe that this International Day of the Girl Child is a good day to start this conversation.
Well, there you have it. The conversation is still ongoing. I just can't have enough of this. But because it's the Girl Child Day, we're just going to, just pause a little bit of the other conversations and we just take a break. And when we get back, the conversation is still going on. Government and other stakeholders, what's your role and what's our role? Can we plug the two and we get the conversation going? That's a question and the call to action all of us need to plug into. I'll take a break for now, but the hashtag is Morning at NTV. Please don't shake my table. It's a little bit sensitive, but let's have the conversation. Good morning.
Watching Morning at NTV.
Don't just paint, but paint for generations to come. Make Global Paints a paint of choice and make your building a paradise. We have weather coat emulsion, undercoat emulsion, silk vinyl emulsion, flat emulsion, super gloss, and high gloss. Global Paint, a reliable product.
The Saturday Monitor brings you another exciting and informative Seeds of Gold Farm Clinic in Fort Portal, focusing on aquaculture, apiculture, dairy, tea and beans, to be held on Saturday, October the 30th, 2021 at Revitabazadi, starting at 8 a.m. Following the Ministry of Health SOPs, attendance is by invite only. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter under the hashtag Farm Clinic 2021. For inquiries, call 0702 706 068 or 0777 530 044. Sponsored by Bank of Uganda, Stanbic Bank, NSSF, and Zoetis in partnership with NTV and Narrow. Seeds of Gold, smarter farming for bumper harvest.
On December 19, 2011, United Nations General Assembly adopted Resolution 66/170 to declare October 11th as the International Day of the Girl Child to recognize girls' rights and the unique challenges girls face around the world. In Uganda, the day is celebrated to take stock on what different stakeholders are doing to contribute to the empowerment of the girl child in different capacities and levels, and launch the revised guidelines for the prevention and management of teenage pregnancies in school settings in Uganda 2020 to protect and promote the well-being of children at home during COVID-19 pandemic, and affirm that the Sustainable Development Goals, Africa's Agenda 2063, Africa's Agenda for Children 2040, and Uganda's Vision 2040. It's against this background that the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, with support from UNICEF, will commemorate the International Day of the Girl Child this Monday, the 11th of October 2021, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. under the theme Digital Generation, Our Generation, live on NTV Uganda. The chief guest is Honorable Janet Museveni, the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports. This dialogue is brought to you by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, with support from UNICEF.
On the next episode
is brought to you by...
On the next episode...
It is our understanding that you saw the very same man that Montserrat Moret was seen arguing with on the night that she died.
That's right, sir.
Only because you asked me to leave.
Oh, Consuelo, just won't admit that you have an affair with him, right?
There is nothing between me and Miguel.
Watching Morning at NTV.
Morning at NTV. We're live from Kampala Serena Conference Center. I'm Andrew Chamagero Muntuawansi. The conversation is getting a little steamed up. Let me go on Twitter just to read a few of your feedback here. Wafula Barasa says that I want to reserve my comment because the level of oblivion and the disconnect the president has exhibits and explains the poverty level and suffering that the majority of the citizens are going through. Then Watulevi says that it is an issue because girls are not being given equal opportunity as the boys school-wise. Then the lawyer, UG lawyer on Twitter, says that the very unfortunate one is thinking that the president cares about the girls. Then Debbie on Twitter still says that the junta's okay child molestation, rape and generalism. No, my friend, the government has come up with affirmative action against this. Just last week, the number of those who are defiled, as per the lockdown, there were 14,000, but the police came up with a report and they're following up all these. And still last week, a teacher who was defiling juveniles was incarcerated for life. So you can't say government has actually okayed this. I won't take that. And delay. Someone here says, this one was shaking my table. Yeah, I think that's the feedback you're getting from people. Please, the hashtag is MonGetNTV. I'll pick your feedback as and when it comes. Coming back to you, Monica, this day has come with a lot of issues. Someone out there on Twitter, I didn't want to read his comment, but he said that men like me and, you know, Timothy, who come here and we, rather James, who come here and we tell people that, oh, we need to drum for the girl child. They think a man loses their manhood when they stand up tall for the girl child and the women in this country. How do we change that shallow pedestrian conversation?
I think that's where the male engagement conversations are critical, for them to appreciate the challenges that women or girls face from that perspective. So people like you and James are critical champions that we need to actually change the mindset of you know, that Twitter follower who is very, you know, mad that you're sounding the drum. Because what you should appreciate is that women are the mothers of this nation. If a woman is well groomed, if a woman has an education, then you're sure that the girl child and the boy child should bring up as a mother will have better opportunities, whether it's education, whether it's health. So you're not just, you know, beating the drum for us. You're doing it because it's an issue that we need to address collectively. If a man is at point A and a woman is at point C, it affects our development right from the household. So it's important that men actually recognize that the challenges women face are multi-faced and deeply rooted. It's important that they recognize that those things have kept us lagging. So, and sometimes part of the solutions is the men, and the men need to be sensitized. The men need, for those who have been sensitized, they should be able to speak out to other men. So men should join this conversation, and that's why we're having men on this table.
And do you at any one time engage the religious leaders or cultural leaders, because these are some of the biggest hindrances about this conversation? You skipped it, but I'm bringing it back to you. Are we engaging the local leaders and cultural leaders?
Yes.
And what is the conversation like?
Yes, so under the She Leads Consortium, this project we're running for the next 5 years, we do work with religious, cultural leaders, government entities, because we do not want to work in silo. The issues that we are handling around girls' participation are issues that all stakeholders need to appreciate. And we cannot talk about girls' participation without talking about the gender stereotypes that have for long kept girls, you know, behind the scenes. So we work with religious and cultural leaders in this consortium, and the reaction, the feedback is great. I think sometimes cultural and religious leaders, even political leaders, some of them speak out of not knowing. But when you bring them to the conversation and you're able to take them back to appreciate the basics, then they understand why their involvement is crucial. So as a project, we are working with all those key stakeholders, because we appreciate a girl can't thrive alone. A girl needs a holistic community approach for her to move to the next step. And therefore the conversation with boys, with men, religious, because these are the gatekeepers of our norms, of our stereotypes, of whatever is happening. If girls are getting pregnant in these COVID times, there are boys behind the scenes, or men behind the scenes making them pregnant. So it's important that the conversation gets to them, and they are part of the solution as well.
Claire, when we get to you, what do you think needs to be done to address the media deserts about the girl child from the village level to the national level? What do we need that more of this information is out in the void, it's well packaged, we are using the right vehicles and the right methods?
Well, I think to involve the girl right from the grassroots level, we need to acknowledge that actually the girl child has problems and challenges that she is facing, and we need to come out, just like someone on Twitter said, it starts with us. We as the young girls, we as the men, we as the parents need to realize that the girl child is actually in need of our help. She needs to be given space to air out her opinions, and I think that would be a really, really great strategy. We need to create spaces where young girls feel comfortable to speak up without fear of them being judged or them being looked at as being rebellious. Yes, so that space is really important.
That's very interesting. James, then, because we're talking digital, is there a particular project, or within this very project you're running for the next 5 years, do you have something so unique that is engaging the women in IT, maybe competitions of digital hacking, or these kind of projects where they're going to learn how the digital space work?
Thank you, Andrew. Before I go to that, don't be unfair to me. I want to respond to that comment.
To the man who said that me and you? Yes.
And maybe Monica can speak on the question you've asked. But I think I want to speak to the men out there.
Yes.
And say that times have changed, and we better change with the times if we are going to remain relevant. I want you to think back. There are so many of us that have been brought up by women.
Yeah, that's true.
And there are so many who could have become better people if their women had gotten the opportunity to be empowered at an early stage, or even within their marriage setting. But because of our patriarchal societies, some women have lacked opportunities which were perhaps readily available, but society and culture could not allow them to use those opportunities and change the entire trajectory of their families and their children. I agree. And that's why then when a father is lost, then the family is lost as well. So we really, the gentlemen out there, we are not here to say the girls should abuse the boys, but dominance beyond the biological functions of a man and a woman should be earned. Oh yeah. It should be
That's
earned.
true.
It's not a natural right. It should be earned beyond
merit.
Beyond the biological obligations of male and female. So Andrew, today the focus might be on girls, and because it's the day of
the girls,
of the girls. But I want people out there to know that we actually also do work for boys. So it's boys and girls, but today the focus is actually on girls. So that misconception should also
should be cleared.
Should be cleared.
Asante James, coming back to you, how are we putting the girls to action when it gets to the digital spaces?
Yes, so in the She Leads project, we recognize that the world is getting digitalized, and this is a global project happening in 10 countries.
Fourth industrial revolution.
Yes, and Uganda is one of them, and that's why we've taken, in this first year of implementation, we've been training girls to appreciate these different digital spaces, appreciate the issue of storytelling, so that we use our social media handles for good, for social transformation, not for sharing only, you know, all the other pictures we want to share, but can we use them to start a movement, to start a conversation, to inspire? So in this first year of implementation, that's what we've done, and we hope that we shall have more young women taking on, you know, different handles and keeping the conversation going. Yes.
When we talked, there is something that Mr. James here that came through. Someone asked, what can we do to change the men's mentality of body shaming women using their pictures or their sizes and all that, because it's so much in the digital space that you know, she's too fat, or she's too skinny, or she's that kind of conversation, because it's critical to understand when the bullying is coming, but how do you protect it? So what are the men doing to make sure that if I see a red flag, someone is trying to bully Claire or Monica, I come out with the whole strength Noop can come up with against the government?
I like your choice of words.
Yes.
Yes. What can we do? Incidentally, technology has created a lot of opportunities, but at the same time, it comes with a lot of challenges. So as more and more girls and boys access the internet, they get both good and bad information, and there are people out there who are actually on internet to corrupt the morals of these girls and boys, but also to expose them to information that may not be relevant, that may actually divert them from the rightful course that perhaps has taken them to the internet. So two things. One, parents need to be supported to know that the gadgets they buy for their children, computers and phones, can actually be controlled and cannot access certain sites. So that education needs to happen at parent level. And then the other thing is government through the UCC and the ICT authority needs to acquire technology that can be able to identify content that is harmful.
Appropriate.
Yes. And that technology exists.
Yes, it does.
But government needs to be proactive and seek it. Because as more children actually access these digital spaces, a lot of abuse is going to happen online. And cyberbullying is already happening. So we need to have the technology where education sites are not easily bombed, you know, internet bombing with pornography, with the homosexuality, misleading content, such that then there is behind that protection needs to come from the government. Because I don't think any stakeholder can have that ability to actually protect
it's the government.
it has to be the government. And that's why our engagement, even as we go to Kororo today to engage with the First Lady and other stakeholders, that will be our call, that government needs to be proactive. Otherwise, the content online, as we encourage young people to actually access education, do business online, they are actually getting exposed. And we need to see government protecting these children with the kind of vigor that we've seen them protect them around COVID.
That's very nice. With closing schools. Claire, what are your parting shots as we're finalizing the conversation?
Well, I would like to call upon all girls to use their voices. Don't sit down on your voice. Use your voices to speak about the issues that affect you. And then I also like to call out to the men and to the boys to quit and to drop the mentality of objectifying women, especially on social media. Yes.
Thank you. Monica, we're finalizing. We could have this conversation until when the cows come back, but you know time is against us.
Yes, for me it's just to appreciate all stakeholders working around the issues of girls and women. I think our work is just getting started, looking at the numbers of girls who have gotten pregnant. I know sometimes people wonder, why are you so particular, so passionate about girls and women? I think our work is just getting started. Today is an opportunity for us to showcase those challenges, but also collectively have solutions.
Okay. Well, that is the conversation with me in studio. As I had Mr. James Yesiga, the country director of TDH Netherlands. We had Mrs. Monica Nyiranguhamwa, Executive Director, Gallup Initiative Uganda. Claire Akumu was the Girls and Young Women representative from She-Leads Consortium. And you, who was online following this conversation on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube with the hashtag Morning at NTV, I really want to thank you. We're going to take a break, but when we return, my colleague Ivan Kamana Walnyoro in Entebbe has a conversation directly in plugging with this. We'll take a break for now.